Okay.
Because they are the ones I wear the most.
Good morning, everyone. Just rocking it out over here with my uneven laundry. If y'all can hear that, that's my washing machine beating down the block. Good morning. Hey, Holly, what's up, girl? Hey, Megan, what's up, girl? Hey, Becky, what's up, girl? Hey, Manda, what's up, girl? Yeah, I had a blast with you guys yesterday. That was such a good live. I apologize in advance if I spoke over anybody. I try not to talk too much, but I got a lot to say. And so a lot of the time when I'm live streaming with like other people, I tend to like take the lead, but it's never and it's never me trying to be disrespectful. I just like really want to make sure that we get certain points across. And that was my goal last night when we all went live together, was that to make sure that there was points that got drove home about what JK had done to Jason, and I really wanted people to see that and understand that, and to understand the level of loyalty that he had to her and why he felt that he had to keep that loyalty. And a lot of the reason was because she held him down in prison for so long. He felt a moral obligation to her. And that's exactly what she does with all of her friends. With any friend that you see her make a public friendship with, here on social media, pay attention. Okay. I want you guys to start paying attention to the behavior. All right. There's always something that she does for that person that really wins that person over and brings them into her inner circle. And then that person becomes indebted to her unknowingly. Okay. And so pay attention. And then she uses them for what she needs. And when she's finished with them, she will discard them. All right. Everybody's doing their homework, right? Are you guys looking up narcissism, sociopathy, and reading up on all this stuff? ASPD, be reading all of it. Thank you. Hello, Kitty. Hey, MT, what's up? Thank you. I'm trying to work on allowing my interviewees to speak a little bit more before I interject, but I think I've been doing a good job. I see a huge growth in Jason. Oh, Lord, so many people are recovering from Hurricane Jessica. Yeah, right? So, sorry about that, y'all. I still have this really nasty cough. But anyway, I had a great time on the live last night. And I'm looking forward to going live with them again sometime. Of course, whenever they feel like doing it, I'll jump on with them. But yeah, what are y'all doing? So this weekend is Mother's Day. Okay. For those of you guys that don't know what I'm talking about or that are watching from Facebook, I went live with my friend Mindy and Mr. Nobody last night. And you can find the live stream on the channel. It's called From Prada to Prison. And it's here on YouTube. So if you guys want to check it out, me and Mindy went live on her channel From Prada to Prison last night. So for those of you guys that don't know what I'm talking about. Girl, I just beat a bitch down for being a hater. Ass bitch. She swung on me and got her ass handed to her. I'm pissed right now. Well, Valerie, that's what you got to do. That's what you got to do, girl. They are good. Good. Hey, Panda, what's up? How are you doing, girl? Or Ponda. I'm so sorry. Ponda Dotson. Hey, girl. Your son is locked up, right? I know you had reached out to me about drug testing in prison. I remember. I hope everything's going okay. Yeah, happy Mother's Day to everybody that is a mother. And like I told you guys yesterday, me and Neil and Nate are going to get dressed and ready today. And then they're going to take me to Belk because that's where I found the ring I want. So as you can see, this is my wedding set. Okay. And I am obsessed with it. No, me and Mindy have been friends for a long time. No, there's no fight here. I don't know. Maybe are you talking about from last year? Last year we had like a 17-hour disagreement, and we were back to being best friends in less than 17 hours. Like sisters do. Sisters have disagreements and cuss each other out, and then they come back together literally in 2 seconds flat. Yeah, that just must be a lie. If you're on that website, then yeah, that's where the rats are. So, for those of you guys that don't know, this was the ring that my husband proposed to me with. See how it's like a bell shaped? And when I got proposed to with this ring, I worked in the service industry. I was a bartender. I waited tables, and I needed a ring that I knew could withhold the sands of time, right? And I knew that I always would slam my hand down on stuff. I was always getting big old things full of ice, and so I needed something that was going to be sturdy. And so Neil got me this ring. It's Canadian ice. It's a diamond. And then I got this ring to go with it when we got married. So now I'm going to get another one to go on the other side, and then I'm going to get them all soldered together. But as you can tell, I'm losing weight, and my rings are like super loose. And so I'm going to have to probably get them fitted as well. Thank you, Jessica. We love you too. So, that's so strange to me that people see. Do you see what I'm saying, you guys? Like, people just make stuff up. If you are on Reddit and people are saying stuff on there, just come and ask me, because me and Mindy haven't had any arguments. We haven't had any fights. We haven't had any disagreement in over a year. She is literally my best friend. You know what I mean? Like, that is so crazy to me. And that is exactly why, like, I don't even know why. If you're on there, I don't know why you are, especially if you're on anything that's about me, because all you have to do is come and ask me straight up. Be a woman, be a man. If you have a question, a comment, or a concern, come to me and ask me. I will straight up tell you. I ain't got nothing to hide. Nothing to hide. Okay? I am an open book. All right? All right. Good morning. So anyway, yeah, nobody knows what's going on in my life better than me, myself. Everybody else is just like making up hearsay, and I don't even know what they could be possibly saying. Like, I literally work from home. My husband works a full-time job. We have custody of our son. We've both been sober for a really long time now. I'll have 9 years in July, and Neil will have 4 years in December, I think. 4 or 5 years? 4 years, I think, in December, because he had a slip in 2020. And it wasn't just a slip. It was like a 6-month-long relapse. Don't get me to lying. But he has been back on track ever since December 21st of 2020. And I am so proud of him. So proud of him. You hear me, Neil?
Yeah, I do.
I am so proud of you. He knows how proud I'm always telling people how proud I am of him, because he had a harder time getting and staying sober than I did. You know what I mean? At the beginning, he had the easier time, but then towards like throughout our whole sobriety, he struggled. You know what I mean? And so I'm really, really proud of Neil.
Okay, I think I'm done.
Yeah, just message me, Jess, because I will tell you. I have nothing to hide, nothing. And as you can see, me and Mindy were just live last night together on her channel. And so do you see how it's like, if you go by what they say on that website, I'm on meth. If you go by what they say on that website, I am on meth, you guys. Okay, so that's what makes it so fucked up and not credible. Because it would be different if they were actually posting real things that were actually happening and exposing me for doing these terrible things, but it's just lies. This is what I'm on. Caffeine, atorvastatin for cholesterol, and lisinopril 5 milligram for blood pressure. That's what I'm on. And semaglutide, which is Ozempic for my weight loss journey, and Suboxone for my opiate use disorder. Those are the medications I take. A lot of craziness online. Don't have any social life. People can say whatever they feel like saying. Whatever they feel like makes them feel like they have something. No excuse for hate or evil. I agree. Thank you, Patricia. That's so kind of you to say that. We're proud of you too, Pixie. You're on 13 or 14 days now? I think one of the main reasons why people try to attack my sobriety, 15, I'm really proud of you. I think the reason why people say things like, oh, Nicole's on drugs, she's high on meth, and they try to make people question the validity of my recovery, I truly believe it's because they know how important my sobriety is to me. And I want you guys to know that too. My recovery, my sobriety is the reason why I have everything I have today. Okay? If I was not sober, I would not be here. I would not have this channel. I would not be able to come online and share my experiences with you guys. I would not have the jobs that I have. I would not have my child back in my custody. I would have nothing. Okay? And so a lot of people, I also believe that a lot of the people who say things about my sobriety are not sober. And they are very much envious of the fact that I have been able to change my life and be honest about my recovery. Okay? You guys know I have been honest since day one about being on Suboxone. It's something that I'm very proud of. Suboxone helped save my life. It's not something that I carry as a shameful baggage. It is a badge of honor. I am proud to utilize this medication, and I am proud to help other people find medication-assisted treatment. And if it works for them, I'm proud to help them with that. You know what I mean? And so I think people know that. People know that. They see that, and it makes them feel uncomfortable. Because a lot of people are ashamed to be on Suboxone. A lot of people are ashamed of it. And anybody that's ashamed, I feel bad for you, because you don't have to be ashamed. Your recovery is valid, and you shouldn't be ashamed. But speaking of Suboxone, here is the recovery. I had a bunch of people last night asking me for the recovery delivered link. So I just put it in the chat for y'all. If y'all want that, just copy it and paste it. I don't know why my links aren't working. I bet I know why. I need to go into my I know where it will work though. Hey Jennifer, what's up, girl? And yeah, I want you also to hear me when I say this. You know, I'm not a victim, okay? When I got sober, the things that I was doing in my active addiction, I chose to put myself in those positions, okay? And today I choose not to put myself in that position, and I've taken my power back. And I think it's really important that everybody that is in recovery understands that you don't have to live your life feeling like you're not good enough. You don't have to live your life feeling like you can't turn it around. You can turn your whole life around and fucking heal and grow past that. Yeah, I'm not understanding. I have to check and see what's going on, Pixie, because remember they were working for a while there, and we can hyperlink. Do you think it's because I'm on the vertical streaming? I think it might have to do something with the vertical streaming, because when I'm horizontal, I have no issues with streaming. You know what I mean? With linking stuff. So I think that might be something that's affecting it, is the fact that we're vertically streaming. But anyway, the reason why I have been doing it vertically, you guys that are on Facebook who don't understand, is because they work on Facebook just fine. Is because when I do it vertically, over on YouTube, because I'm on both platforms right now, it pushes it out to multiple. It pushes it out more, you know? So, excuse me. But anyway, let's talk about the day I became a mother, okay? Since it's a Mother's Day, since we're going into Mother's Day tomorrow, let's talk about the day that I had my son and when I found out I was pregnant. All right? Me and Neil were just talking about this because we were on the phone with Ashley. So I got pregnant in 2013. I'll never forget it. Story time, story time, story time. I'll never forget the day. I was downstairs in the kitchen with my father-in-law. Okay, he's passed away. His name is Alan. And we called him Al, Crazy Al. Okay, he was a Vietnam veteran. He was an amazing, amazing man. When I tell you, I loved my husband's dad is the shit. Nicole Ploudre. May you rest in peace. He was such a good man. And he loved me. He loved him some Nicole. All right. And so I was down in the kitchen getting something to eat. And this is before we took over the house, right? Because for those of you guys that don't know, I used to live in my mother-in-law's house. After they moved out, we took over the payment. So this is before my mother and father-in-law moved out. So we were all living together. Okay. We're all living together. And I walked down in the kitchen and my father-in-law looked at me and he said, "You're pregnant." And I was like, "What?" I got so pissed off because first of all, I was on drugs. And second of all, are you saying I'm fat? You know what I mean? And so he was like, "You're pregnant." I was like, "No, I'm not." And he was like, "Yeah, you are. You're glowing. You're pregnant." And I was like, "Okay, whatever, old man." He's going senile, right? Well, I went upstairs. I told Neil, "Your dad thinks I'm pregnant." And he was like, "Yeah, right." You know, me and Neil didn't think we could have kids. We had been, together for many years at that point. Or we had been together many years. We had been together for a year. And we had never used protection when we were intimate with each other. So for a whole year, we were like, yeah, right. We're not going to, okay. Sorry about that, guys. I just took this guy and put him in timeout. I told Neil, I was like, "He thinks I'm pregnant. And your dad's saying that I'm glowing and that I'm pregnant." And Neil's like, "Okay, well, my dad says the damnedest things." And so I went on about my business. Well, a week later, I decided to go and get a pregnancy test. Okay. So I went and got a pregnancy test from like the Dollar Tree or something like that. And I took the test, and lo and behold, it came back positive that I was pregnant, you guys. And I remember when I found out, I literally screamed, you guys. I was in the bathroom and Neil was in the bedroom. Okay. And I screamed to my husband, Neil, I'm pregnant. And he was like, what? Oh, crap. Did not mean to do that. Shit. Oh, crap. Sorry, guys. Sorry about that. I was like, Neil, I'm pregnant. And he was like, oh my God, are you serious? And I'm like, yeah. And so we weren't like disappointed or upset, but we were both like really afraid. We were really, really afraid. Oh, what happened, Soul Surfer? I'm sorry to hear that. Hope you feel better. We were really, really afraid because we didn't know anything about having kids. No, we were not married. So me and Neil did not get married. This is important for y'all to know. We did not get married until 2019. Okay. We met September 15th of 2012. And this was November 2013 when I found out I was pregnant. So we had been together for a little over a year at that point when we got pregnant, and we were not married. And so when I found out I was pregnant, I immediately like was so afraid because I was struggling to stay off drugs. I had wanted to get and stay sober for many, many years, and me and Neil had been trying. Okay. Ever since we moved in with his parents, we had been trying to get and stay sober, and we would have periods of sobriety where we would stay sober for like 6 months or 3 months or 2 months. But then we would always relapse back into our old behaviors. It would always be something like, you know how it is when you're, maybe you don't know how it is, but when you're a couple and you use together, a lot of the times, like one of you will be like really wanting to stay sober and really doing well, but the other one kind of is like on the fence. And then the other person will come in and say, hey, look, I just got paid today. Let's celebrate. And then the other person goes, oh, okay. It's not that big of a deal. We can just do it one time. And then you find yourself back in that vicious cycle. So Neil and I were in this vicious cycle, and I was injecting it. I would probably inject about 12 Roxy 30s a day. Like, I need you guys to understand the level of dependency that I had on these drugs. We were also getting prescriptions, like writing prescriptions for Roxy 30s and getting them filled. Like, we had a whole operation. It was really, really fucked up. It was really dangerous. We could have went to prison, like all kinds of shit. And so I would inject like 12 Roxy 30s a day, no problem. It took me I had to shoot up three 30s at a time just to get lifted off, just to get off the ground, just to feel a feeling. Okay. Roxy 30s are oxycodone 30 milligram. And so I would break them down in a spoon and shoot them up. So I was on a lot of pain pills. Okay. I was on a lot. And you could ask Neil, like, I always did so much more than he did. And it would cause us arguments, but like it took me more than it took him to get high. You know what I mean? So I was on a lot, and I was also doing methamphetamine. And so when I found out I was pregnant, I was so afraid because I knew that I had to get off of, I needed to get off drugs, right? And I tried to get off of everything. I really, really did. I need people to understand that I really tried to get off of all the drugs that I was on, but I failed. I'm not telling you to do this. This was horrible, but I used methamphetamine to get off of benzos and opioids. That is how I got off of Xanax and Roxy's, was by shooting out a lot of meth and just being skeezed out of my mind. That's how I was able to stop taking Roxy's and Xanax. because I knew that if I had stayed on Roxy's and Xanax, that my fetus would be dependent on those things. I knew that he would come out dependent on them, and he would have to go into the NICU and get withdrawal medicine and all that. And so this is how distorted my drug addict mind was. Okay. This is how fucked up my brain was. My brain told me, well, it's better for you. It's better than being on opioids and benzos. Meth will be better than being on all of those things. Right. And so that's how I justified it in my mind, that at least I wasn't on opioids and benzos, which could create a dependency. Right. And I know today that is horrible. I know today that it doesn't matter if it's opioids, benzos, crack cocaine, methamphetamine, Benadryl, alcohol, like it all affects your fetus. It all affects your baby. And I am just very fortunate that my son was okay and born healthy. Does that mean that he might have effects from it? He's 10 years old now. So far, Nathaniel is healthy and thriving and doing well in school. He has a little trouble with comprehension sometimes, but I think, a lot of 10-year-olds do. He is making all A's and B's. He got 1 C in social studies. I'm so proud of him. But I'm very, very grateful that my son is healthy. It's not because of me, though. Okay. I need people to understand that. I was using drugs during my pregnancy. I was using methamphetamine. And during the beginning of my pregnancy, I was addicted to Xanax and benzos. I was able to get off of those medications. And it was so dangerous because me coming off those medications like I did, I could have had a miscarriage. I could have killed my baby. Okay. Like, I need you to understand how serious it was. I didn't realize how serious it was at the time. I did not realize that my son could have died in my belly because of my actions. I did not realize that me being addicted to benzos and opioids, as heavily addicted as I was, that it could hurt my child. Because if I knew that, I would have went and I would have gotten help to get off those drugs. For some reason, it just didn't register to me how powerful those substances were. And I cannot explain it to you. There's no way to explain it. Okay. There's no way to explain how my child was safe in my stomach. There's no way, because I was a terrible, terrible mother. Okay. I did not take care of myself. I did not take care of my unborn child. I was horrible. I was highly addicted. I was very unhealthy. But I wanted to be better. I wanted to be taking care of my son. I wanted to be sober. I wanted better for him. So throughout my pregnancy, I would get sober. So after I got off benzos and opioids, it was like a rough 2 weeks of me kind of feeling really shitty. But I was, like I said, I was injecting methamphetamine to make myself not feel the opioid and benzo withdrawal that I was experiencing. Because y'all have to understand, I was cold turkey off of benzos and opioids. Okay. And this was in the first month of my pregnancy. All right. So I found out I was pregnant at 4 weeks pregnant. I caught it really early, thanks to my father-in-law saying to me I was pregnant and glowing. Because if he hadn't said that to me, I wouldn't have caught it so early. So that is how I got myself off of opioids and benzos, was by taking meth, and taking a lot of it the first month of my pregnancy. So, I'm not telling you to do this. I'm just telling you what happened, because it's a miracle that I'm alive and that my son's alive and that he's healthy. It's a miracle. And I need people to understand that. Okay. It's nothing short of a miracle. God protected my child from me. I was terribly addicted during my pregnancy. Terribly. So throughout the rest of my pregnancy, for the next 8 months, I would get sober completely from everything, from meth, because I got off the opioids and the benzos the first month, then I would just sporadically relapse back and forth on meth. I would get sober for 30 days and then I would relapse. And I would go on a 2-week bender. Then I would get sober again and I would relapse. And then I would go on another bender for a week. And this was back and forth throughout the whole 9 months that I was pregnant.
I'm going to make eggs, bacon, and sausage. You want some too?
Yeah. No. Go. You watch TV in my bedroom, baby. So, or you can come sit over here and play your game. But I'm gonna talk while I'm doing it. Okay.
Give her a second.
Yeah, Soul Surfer. I'll tell you that in just a second. That's a great question. Okay. So, throughout my pregnancy, I battled back and forth with a methamphetamine, right? And then it was July 3rd of 2014. It was 5:00 in the morning, okay? I had been up all night because I had taken a capsule full of methamphetamine. And I had been up all night. I was in my room coloring, and my husband was working the overnight shift, the graveyard shift. And so it was about 5 a.m. and I started to have this debilitating, it felt like somebody was taking an ice pick and stabbing me in my lower back and then dragging it across. I was in labor. I was having full on back labor. So I called Neil and I was like, hey, I just want to let you know that I think I'm going to have the baby today. You know, I'm having contractions. And so I went and woke up my mother-in-law and I told her, hey, this is what's going on. And she was like, don't worry. It's not going to happen yet. We're just getting started. Like, she let me know that this is going to be hours long, right? Because I thought, oh my God, I'm in labor. I need to go to the hospital right now. So that was at 5 a.m. Neil got home around 7 o'clock and we drove to the hospital at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I went in and they checked me and I was only 1 centimeter dilated. I knew right then and there, I did not want to stay in that hospital because I was very, very under the influence of methamphetamine. I couldn't stay still. I was moving around. I was at that point where you know? And so I told hospital workers, you know, I'm not going to sit here and lay on my back for fucking 8 hours. I'm going to go home and work it out. So me and Neil left and they said, okay, we'll see you when you come back. Just make sure you come back, you know, with enough time so you can get your epidural. And I was like, okay, I'll see y'all later. So I left. We went back home. And for the next, from 8 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock at night, I was in labor at my home. And it was not that bad. I mean, it was painful. I was in pain. I was contracting. You could literally watch my stomach. It started like here, and you could watch how it dropped throughout the day. Remember that, Neil?
Yep.
It was like all of a sudden I looked in the mirror and my stomach was low in between my legs. And it was because the baby the whole time throughout the 8 hours was moving and positioning himself to get ready to go deep down out of me. And I was like literally handling it like a champ, y'all. I had this big bouncy ball I was bouncing on. I was drawing hot baths and getting in and out of a hot bath. My water broke sometime when I was in and out of the bath because I didn't notice it outside of the bath. So it had to happen when I was in the water. But I was rocking back and forth on the ball. My friend Tara came over. My best friend came over. And she, you know, I was just in the house all day long going through labor. Neil was there with me. My mom came down from New York. She flew down. She was there with me. My mother and father-in-law were there. And I just worked it out. I worked it out, and I was high. I was high on meth during this whole experience. And so I also want y'all to understand that the feelings that I was feeling were times 1,000 because I was high on meth. Because meth affects your central nervous system, and so every pain that I felt that much more painful because my senses in my nervous system was so on edge. I was so tweaked out. You know what I mean? And I'm just being honest with you guys. I'm not proud of this. I have the greatest amount of guilt and shame around this. Okay. Because I didn't take pictures. I didn't video camera. I don't really have anything to show for from my 9 months of being pregnant. I think I have 2 pictures of me pregnant. I don't have.
We were being selfish, is what it was. And we'd never been in that situation before.
I was very selfish, and I don't have anything to show for it. I think about it all the time. I think about how if I could go back and do it over again, I would have had a photo shoot every month to show how my belly was growing, and I would have done like special things to celebrate it and to really, really, but I couldn't even celebrate because I wasn't able to celebrate myself because I was so addicted and I was so strung out and I was so full of shame. I was just doing everything I could to survive and to make it through my pregnancy without dying, and without killing my child. And so I wish I could go back. And people ask me, well, will you have another child? No. I do not believe in bringing children into the world if you cannot financially afford it. And there are too many people who just pop out babies like it's a fucking race, okay? A child is a huge responsibility and a great financial burden. Okay? They are so expensive. All right? And me and my husband, we are in the greatest position to be the best parents to our one child and make him have the best life and do all the things he wants to do. And that's because we know this is our limit. And so would I love to have another child so that way I could experience what it would be like to be a sober pregnant parent? I would love to have that experience, but it's a selfish reason. I could not give that child the best life like I can give Nathaniel. And it would put a strain and a burden on our family financially. And that's why I don't have another child.
Now, if it happened, we deal with it. But
yeah, if we got pregnant by accident and it was like that, then, we would probably have another kid then. But we actively work to not do that. Okay. We try not to make that mistake. And I think it's really important for people to understand that, like, kids are not props. Okay. When I got pregnant with Nathaniel, it was truly a miracle. God did what I couldn't do for myself because God knew that I was going to fight for my son. He knew that me having this baby was going to change my life. And I recommend going and having a baby to get sober. No, that's not what I'm telling you, because I didn't get sober because I had my son. Okay. It took what it took from that experience for me. But anyway, so I was in labor. I got there at like 8:30 at night, and they immediately brought me back and they checked my cervix, and I was 8.5 centimeters dilated, you guys. That's 8.5 centimeters. So they immediately got me in the epidural room, gave me my epidural, and they started checking the baby's heartbeat and mine and all that. Nathaniel's heartbeat dropped very, very low, to where it was dangerously low. So they had to inject me with something that would bring his heart rate up. And so they gave me some shot of something that made Nathaniel's heart rate come back up. And then they were monitoring him very, very closely. Then around 11 o'clock at night, it was time to start pushing. And I started pushing around 11:30. And I pushed from 11:30 till about 1 o'clock in the morning. And he was born around 1 o'clock in the morning on July 4th. In between that time of me pushing, they gave me some more epidural. And when they did that, they gave me too much. And I could not feel my legs. I could not feel to push. I'll never forget it. The nurse looked down and she said, I've never seen this happen before, but you are sucking the baby back in. You're pushing and then you're sucking it back in somehow. And it was because I couldn't feel what was going on. I could not feel my vagina. I couldn't feel my ass to push. Because when you're having a baby, you have to push like you're taking a shit. Okay. That's what it's like. And so I could not feel that. And so he was back in. Okay. So we took a push break. Neil was there. So they said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take a 30-minute push break. Okay. And so we took a push break and everybody left the room and I chilled for a minute. And then they came back in after 30 minutes and I could feel a little bit more down there. And it was time to rock and roll. They came back in 15 minutes later. They called the doctor and then boop, he popped out. He popped right out. He came out and he had some of the meconium, which is, the poo-poo. He had gotten some of it in his mouth or on him or something like that. So they were like, they had to deal with that first. They had to clean him and make sure that he was okay with that. And then they gave him to me. And he laid on my chest and I was crying and Neil was crying. My mom was crying. My mother-in-law was crying. My husband's dad, he came back because he was like hiding behind the curtain because, it's kind of weird. I didn't want him like in between my legs. And so my husband's dad finally came out.
I don't think he wanted to be there.
Yeah. My husband's dad finally came out from behind the curtain because I was like, you can come out now. And he got to see Nate and everybody got to see Nathaniel and how he was beautiful. 7 pounds, 11 ounces, 21 inches long, healthy as could be, full head of fucking red hair, blondish, reddish hair. Okay. And y'all see how dark Nate's hair is now. His hair is like my color now, but he had a full hair of strawberry, blondish red hair. He had the prettiest green eyes, which he still has green eyes to this day. And he was perfect. He was perfect. He was healthy. They gave him all of his tests. He passed all of his scores, his APGAR scores, with flying colors. And so this is when the worry started to set in on me because I knew that I was under the influence, but no one else knew. My husband knew, but nobody else in the room knew that I had been high the whole time. The doctors, the nurses, no one said one word to me about being under the influence of methamphetamine. No one did. And I peed in a cup when I first got there. I did everything. No one said anything to me. And I'm going to tell you guys, I prayed a prayer. I prayed so hard that God, if you get me out of this, I promise I'll turn my life around. If you get me out of here with my child, if I can get out of this hospital and leave without CPS coming and taking my son from me, I'll change. Rocky, what are you doing? Watch him on that rug because I don't want him.
You use all the pepper?
I don't know why he likes to pee on my rugs. No, the pepper's still in there. I prayed with everything in me. Lord, please let me out of this place without CPS coming. And I made it. I got out of there. They didn't come take my son away from me. And am I saying that's okay? No, I'm not saying that's okay. Should they have probably removed my son at that time? Yes, because I was high. Okay. Your actions have consequences. I'm just sharing with you that that's not what happened. I escaped by the skin of my teeth, by the fucking hair on my chinny chin. Okay. And so I remember 2 days later when we left the hospital, how fucking grateful I was that I was able to leave with my son. And I said, okay, this is it. I'm staying sober now. I've got everything out of my system. They only gave me a few pain pills, like 2 days worth of pain pills for my, because I split, so they had to sew me back up. They gave me 2 days worth of Percocet, and I was already out of those, right? So I was like, this is it. I'm changing my life. And for the next 90 days, I stayed sober. I breastfed Nate. I learned how to change diapers. I was hands-on 90 days. I did so fucking good. I was so proud of myself. And then I went to the gas station and I saw my drug dealer Z at the gas station. And he gave me some Xanax bars. And I took them. And that's all it did. It like reawoken that inside of me. And here, let's just be straight up real. For 90 days, I was white knuckling it. Okay. 90 days from a 20-year drug addiction. I didn't know how to stay sober. I had no sober support. I was not in therapy. I wasn't going to meetings. I was a brand new mother going through postpartum depression, trying to white knuckle sobriety. Okay, after a 20-year addiction to opioids, benzos, cocaine, and methamphetamine. Okay, and so, of course, honestly, of course, I was going to relapse. Of course, I was going to relapse. And so, when I relapsed, the way we had our life set up was we were living with my mother and father-in-law still at this time. And so I would leave my son and go on a week bender and to Tara's house. And then I would come back. And then I would go on 3 days over at Tara's house. And Neil was getting pissed at me, you guys, because y'all have to understand, like, Neil was working a full-time job. He was trying to stay sober as well. And I was running amok. Okay. And Neil, he almost left me. I almost lost my husband. He wasn't my husband yet. But Neil almost left me during this time after I gave birth to Nathaniel. Remember Neil, when I went off with Tara and Nate for like, I had a friend named Nate for like a week.
Remember, what's her name from across the street came over to like give you updates, and she was acting all weird too.
Yeah. And to add insult to injury, the house across the street from where we lived at with Neil's parents, the girl that lived there was one of my friends. She was also an active addict. And so she would come over and like bring me drugs behind Neil's back and stuff. And so Neil was trying to stay sober as well. Now he had relapsed too, but he was like staying at home with our son I was running amok.
Yeah, and you're supposedly helping clean.
I was supposed to be cleaning, helping Tara clean her house and going on these.
Nathan had a cleaning business that you said, and that you guys were cleaning these like different.
And we were going to the
in office buildings.
Yes. So Nate and my friend Kristen had this cleaning business, and we were cleaning like car dealerships. We were cleaning office buildings for doctors. And so the way that I was getting out to leave the house and not come back was by going under the guise that I'm going to get paid to do these cleaning jobs. And that's what I was doing to manipulate Neil and his mom and dad. So that way I could go out and do God knows, do. I was getting high, but don't get me wrong. We were cleaning as well. We were tweaking and cleaning office buildings, cleaning car dealerships, but I was just along for the free drugs. You know what I mean? And I'm being so fucking for real with y'all right now. Like it's shameful. Like the things that I was doing were shameful. And that went on for about 7 or 8 months. And then in July of 2015, it was a year after Nate had been born. It was 2 days before his first birthday. Me and Tara got into a fight. We got into a huge fight, and he could come play the game. I'm just sitting here telling the story. We got into a huge fight. Me and Tara did. She got mad at me, and she called CPS on me. We got into it. Now, this was my friend that I used substances with. It wasn't somebody that was looking out for me. I get a lot of comments from people that say, "Oh, thank goodness your friend saved your life. That's a great friend." No, that's not what happened. It wasn't because she was a great friend and she was looking out for me. This was my friend that I shot cocaine with. This is my friend that I smoked crack with. Okay. She called CPS on me because she owed me money, and I got the money from her boyfriend, and she got mad because I went around her to collect the money from her man. And that really pissed her off.
And she had like strung us along like for like a day or two, telling us that she was going to give it to us, and then it like would never happen. So that's kind of why we were like, fuck it.
So that is what happened. I really want people to understand that. Like, it wasn't like a sober friend who was worried and concerned about me and was trying to save my life. No. And y'all have to also understand, my child was safe. He was with his father and his Gigi and Papa. So a lot of people, they get their kids taken away from them because they're using drugs with their kids in the house. They're neglecting their children. That's not what was happening. I was quite literally not there. They were with my child and I was somewhere else. That's what was going on. I wasn't getting high with my kid in the room. I wasn't taking Nate to the drug dealer's house with me. None of that stuff. My son was with his dad and his grandma and grandpa. And I was off the Richter scale. I was running the streets. I can't play official. And I would only do this for, like I said, 3 days to a week at a time. I would go MIA and then I would come back. You know what I mean? So anyway, so CPS shows up at my house. They have come over like 3 times apparently, and nobody was home. I wasn't home. Neil wasn't home. Neil's parents had just bought a brand new home and they had just moved out. So they were watching Nate over at their house, and I wasn't home because I had just gotten a job working as a manager at McDonald's, and Neil was at his job. So nobody was at the house, the address that they had. And so I was trying to move forward. I was trying to change my life. I had went out, like I said, I got a job. I was in training as a manager. And so I was trying to work and turn it around and not do the dumb stuff I was doing anymore. And they had left a note on the door saying that I needed to get in contact with them. And that is where that's where I made the biggest mistakes of my life. Because I want everyone to understand that the trauma that CPS caused my son and myself, it wasn't warranted. It wasn't needed. I just needed help. I needed to go to treatment. But my child didn't need to be removed from the only loving, caring family that he knew. He didn't need to be taken away from my husband. He didn't need to be taken away from his grandmother and grandfather. I needed to be in treatment. I needed to be removed from the situation so I could get help. That's what needed to happen. But instead, I went to CPS because I thought that that's what I was supposed to do. And I went to the office and I told them, I need help. And I asked them, will you help me? I need help getting into treatment. I don't want to be addicted. I don't want to hurt my family. I love my son. I need help. And I thought that they were there to help me. The whole time I was telling them this, they were building a case against me. So they tell me, we're going to help you. We're going to help you get into rehab. We're not going to take your son away from you. In fact, your son can go stay with his grandma and grandpa, and you and your husband, if your husband's struggling, he can do outpatient and still work, and you can do inpatient. And I was like, that's fabulous. That's perfect. My mother and father-in-law were ready. They stepped up to the plate. They were like, we would love to take Nathaniel here. We will take good care of him. Everything was fine. And then the next day, CPS showed up at my motherfucking door telling me, never mind, we're taking your son from you. We're removing your son. And so.
And the lady, it ended up not even being the same lady. The caseworker switched up like right after that too. So it was like we had to restart and start talking to somebody who didn't even know the scenario.
Yeah. So the caseworker who
probably being fed a bullshit.
The caseworker who decided to take our son from us, she quit her job the week after taking my son from me. Okay. So then we get a whole new caseworker. So you can imagine my surprise when I'm sitting in detox and I am assuming that my son is going to his grandmother and grandfather's house. And then I get a call telling me that, no, your son can't go to his grandma and grandpa's house. Why not? Because they're too old. That is the reason that they gave me. They said because they're too old. My mother and father-in-law were 60 years old, in the best shape of their lives. They both bowl on a league. They were more active than me and my husband. Okay? That's what I need y'all to understand. My mother-in-law, she is on it like white on rice. She has 2 little dogs. She's always out walking with them. She is bowls on a league. Like she is always traveling. She is in it to win it. She is very active senior citizen. Okay? They had just moved into a beautiful, brand new home. Beautiful. And you mean to tell me my child is in a respite home? A respite home. Because not only did they not place him with his grandmother and grandfather, they had nowhere for him to go. So for 2 weeks, my baby, who was not even a year old, was in a stranger's group home for babies. A group home for babies. 12 other babies in there.
And getting whatever he had.
So then when I get to see him for the first time and lay eyes on him, my first week in rehab, they bring my son to me, and he is covered in blisters because he has hand, foot, and mouth disease. Because see, my beautiful baby has never even been to daycare before because I had all the family support. I had people there willing to step up the plate and help me. And CPS fucked me. CPS is grimy. Don't trust them. Don't open your door to them. Do not tell them a thing. Do not talk to them. Ever. Ever. I'll say it until I'm blue in the face, until I die. Never talk to CPS. Slam the door in their face. You don't owe them anything. You don't have to tell them anything. So that happened. And as you can see, I have a lot of trauma and resentment around that situation because I was led to believe that my child would be safely placed with his grandmother and grandfather, who were so loving and so patient and so understanding and so supportive of me and my husband getting sober.
And at the time, your parents were in New York, so they were the only family he knew.
Yeah.
Besides me. Well, your mom had been there and your dad had been there. You know what I'm saying? But it wasn't like on a daily.
Did you die or did you find a car?
So do not talk to CPS ever. Okay. So
where were you?
After Nate was removed and they finally found a place for him to be placed, a home, the home that they did find for him to be placed in was a good home. And I'm very grateful, but he didn't even need to be placed in somebody else's home. He had family. We had next of kin who stepped up to the plate. No, my mother and father-in-law did not enable or give me and my husband drugs. No, they had never been in trouble before. My father-in-law is a Vietnam veteran. My mother-in-law had just retired from working at State Farm for like 40 years. Okay, like these were outstanding citizens. CPS took my son and placed him in care because they wanted the check. They did not care about my child's best interest because the best interest of my newborn son, my less than 1-year-old son, would be to be placed with a family member where he would not have to go through traumatic events, okay, and be abandoned. Because can you imagine being a less than 1-year-old infant, not knowing how to talk, waking up from your nap time? You went to sleep at your mom's house and you wake up and you don't know where you're at. And your mother is nowhere to be found. And your father is nowhere to be found. And your grandma and grandpa are nowhere to be found. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that trauma?
Hey, do you want some now? It's coffee too.
So, no, not right now. So, CPS is fucking full of shit. Fuck CPS. Do not talk to them. If you watch my videos, never talk to CPS. You don't owe them a damn thing. CPS is one of the biggest child trafficking agencies in the United States of America. Do not talk to them. So, for the next year, I fought for my son. I finished treatment. Now, this is where the question comes in that says, why did you get back on Suboxone? Here we go. When I relapsed after being sober for 90 days and having my son, I relapsed back on opioids, benzos, and meth. And so when I went into treatment, I was coming off of opioids, benzos, and methamphetamine. Okay? When I was in treatment, I tested positive for opioids and benzos. The meth had gotten out of my system by the time I went into detox, but I had opioids and benzos in my system. I was tapered off of opioids and benzos with Librium and Suboxone while I was in detox. Then I was placed in a residential program for 30 days. I did 30 days. While I was in treatment for 30 days, I relapsed on benzodiazepines. okay, in treatment. So for 2 weeks of my residential treatment, I was on benzos. Then they caught me and I was cold turkeyed off of the benzos. Okay. When I came out of treatment, I was 2 weeks sober from benzos, 30 days sober from opioids, and 30 days sober from methamphetamine. Right. Why did I get back on Suboxone? Or why did I get on Suboxone? When I came out of treatment, my husband had gotten on Suboxone. Okay. So he was on medication assisted treatment, which was recommended to him by the CPS caseworker that we had. And she was the second caseworker we had. Her name was Kawachi. Shout out to you, girl. I'm pretty sure she is a friend of mine here on Facebook. Kawachi was amazing. Amazing. She fought for me. She advocated for me, and she helped me. Okay. She was not part of the problem. She actually was a foster care kid herself. And that's why she got into working in CPS, because she wanted to help kids that were like her. But she ended up leaving too, because that's how fucked up CPS is. That they have good people that want to work for them, but they're a fucked up agency. So, like I was saying before, Neil was on Suboxone. So already right there was going to be an issue, because Neil was taking this medication and we lived together. We were very codependent on each other. A lot of the times when he took a medication, I took his medication. So I already knew, like, okay, this might be a struggle for me, right? But I still wanted to try and stay completely off of everything, right? And not use maintenance medication. So I did for about a week. Now you can imagine being around my husband, knowing he's taking Suboxone. It was triggering for me. It made me think about, I want to take Suboxone. Maybe it can help me. Maybe it'll make these triggers go away. Maybe it'll make these cravings go away. Maybe it'll make it not so stressful for me, because I was struggling to stay sober. Remember, I have been using drugs for almost 20 years. And so I am newly sober. 2 weeks off of benzos, 30 days off opioids, 30 days off meth. So Neil saw that I was struggling, and he's like, why don't we go down to see the doctor that I see and see what he says? See if it will help you. Okay. And so that's what we did. We went and saw the doctor. He said to me, you really got 30 days sober from opioids. If you want to try it, we can start you out on a low dose and see if it helps you. If it doesn't help you, I'll titrate you down and you can get off. No big deal, right?
Be cold still. Be careful there.
Me getting on Suboxone was the answer to me not going out and getting high, okay? Because if I hadn't gotten on Suboxone, I wouldn't have stayed sober throughout my CPS case. I'm telling you, I had a history. I had a history of chronically relapsing. I had a history of only being able to get to around the 6-month point. And I knew that I had to stay sober. If I did not stay sober, I was going to lose custody of my son. I already had 2 strikes against me because they caught me getting high in the treatment center. So the first strike was the day my son got taken away from me. The second strike was them catching me in the damn rehab eating Xanaxes. Okay, so I already had 2 strikes. One more strike, they were terminating my rights. And they were eager to do that. They wanted to keep my son. They wanted to have my baby. I'm telling you guys. Let me go in here with Neil because he has some good, he'll tell y'all too. They wanted to keep my son from me, okay? Y'all have to understand. Nathaniel is a white baby, okay? I'm Mexican and Italian, but my son is white, okay? He's a white boy. And they wanted my little white boy baby, okay? They wanted to take him and they wanted to keep him, all right? And nobody can tell me different. You can't tell me no different, all right? So whenever so we went down to see the doctor, right? And Dr. Mancino was like, and my caseworker, she was also like, getting on Suboxone could help you and it could save your life. It could keep you from struggling like you've struggled all these years. Because I had told her my whole life history. I had told her how many times I tried to get sober. I had told her how many times I had failed. And so she understood. And so that is why I got on Suboxone. That is why. And I'm telling you guys, this is just me. It was the best decision. Because Neil, do you think I would have stayed sober if I hadn't gotten on Suboxone?
I really think you would have a definite difficult time, and it might not have been like a full blown anything, but you've been taking steps to get something.
Yeah. So, and that's how it would always happen. Like, it would start out small. Like, I would take a piece of a Xanax or something like that. And so I just could not chance it. I could not chance losing custody of my son because of my drug addiction. You know what I mean? And that's what would have happened, because I struggled. I struggled in early sobriety. I struggled to stay sober. And so getting on Suboxone was the answer to that. And it saved my life. It took away all my cravings, and it made it so much easier to stay sober. It made it so much easier. And it was the best decision that I ever made. And I would do it over and over and over again, because I wouldn't be here today with almost 9 years sober if I hadn't got on MAT. I wouldn't. So I got on Suboxone. My caseworker was totally cool with it. They approved of it. And for the next year, I fought tooth and nail. I went to parenting classes. Me and Neil jumped through hoops. Yeah. And even after,
we're like one of the first cases I think they've ever come across, because remember the judge was like,
they didn't even know what Suboxone was.
Yeah, we had to like basically bring experts in to tell them what it does, what it's for, how it works, why we were on it, and what life is like with it.
Yeah. We had to bring in like doctors, nurses to advocate for us, because our attorney ad litem was trying to keep us from getting our son back because we were on Suboxone. She was trying to say, because we were on a prescribed medication that was prescribed to us, that we were not allowed to get our son back because of that. So that's what I'm telling you guys. Like, these people tried to keep Nathaniel. They tried to keep my son from me. And I'm telling you, like, it was because he was a beautiful baby, and beautiful little babies are easy to get adopted out. And I truly believe that that's what they wanted to do, was keep Nathaniel from me. It sure felt like that. It sure fucking felt like that. So we ended up fighting and fighting and fighting. And the judge ended up siding with us and saying, you know what? They do deserve to have their son back, you know? And she gave me my son back. It was a year later. It was 10 or 11 months later that we got to have Nate back. He got to come home and everything. And, when I got my son back, I knew that there was nothing that nobody could do to fuck with me after that. I knew if I could get through this shit with CPS, that I could get through anything. Anything. There's nothing nobody can do to me that will hold me down. And I fought for him. My son is the best thing that ever happened to me. I love him. And I'm being so fucking honest with y'all about my drug addiction during my pregnancy and how much I struggled. I'm being honest, because a lot of people assume that because you are pregnant that your addiction just like ends. And that's not how it goes. Like, it's a choice, right? It's a choice, and it's a hard choice. And when you have practiced something for so many years, like I said, almost 20 years of drug addiction, I wasn't just going to break that fucking habit overnight. You know, I wasn't just going to become sober because I became pregnant. And for some people, it's easier. Some people sober when they get pregnant, but I know a lot of women who struggle just like I did. And a lot of people judge me for that. A lot of people, you know, shame me for that. And that's okay. That's okay. You know, I understand why people are angry and why they are judgmental about it. But just remember, there's nothing that you can say. Like, you can judge me, but baby, I've said it all to myself. Do you not think that I think that? You know what I mean? Do you not think that I know how terrible what I did was? I have to live with that. I have to live with knowing that I put my child in harm's way every day of my life. You know, and I think about that every day of my life. So there's not anything that anybody can tell me that will, you know, hurt me or offend me or make me feel some type of way, because I already said it to myself. You know what I mean? But when we got Nate back, it was the best thing that ever happened. It was like a celebration. We celebrated. And I'm very protective of my son now. I don't just let people in. I don't just bow down to places like the school or the doctor's office because I don't trust any of them. I don't trust them as far as I can fucking throw them. Because I've seen people. I've seen doctors get people's kids taken away from them because the kid fell off the fucking swings and broke their arm. And the doctor says, oh, I think the parent is abusing the child. And it legit was because the kid fell off the swings. And so I don't trust none of them. None of them motherfuckers. Show right. You got to be real careful. And so my son is literally my everything. And so I'm very careful. Of course, he goes to the doctor when he needs to go to the doctor, but he only goes for his checkups and his physicals and his dental. Like, we're not there at the doctor every time he gets sick with a cold or something like that because I don't need them. I got this. And Nate has a really great immune system because when he was a little baby, I let him play outside in the dirt. We let him run without his shoes on. I let him be in the elements, you know what I'm saying, to get his immune system built up. And so I'm not one of those people who's like spraying for germs and stuff like that. That creates a weak immune system in a child when you're like constantly shielding them from everything. You have to let your kid get dirty and all that kind of stuff. So that way their immune system can naturally build itself. And that's how it's been for Nate. Nate barely ever gets sick. Barely. So, yeah, I got custody of Nate back. And ever since then, I've just been working to be the best mom and to make his life good and to make sure that he has all the things that he needs in life and to help him be confident. And I'm really proud of him this year because this year he's brought his grades up. He's been keeping his grades in the A's and B's, which last year he struggled with his grades. And so we had a talk with him about it at the beginning of the year about how important it is for him to focus on his schoolwork. And I don't think he realized how important it was. And we talked to him about it, and he's been really focused on that and understanding that he needs to put effort in. And since then he's been doing great. And I also set an incentive for him, which was like, you need to get all A's and B's or else you can't get this PlayStation for Christmas. And that also really prompted him to do good because he really wanted to get his PlayStation for Christmas. So that's what you got to do with these kids these days. You got to dangle a carrot, give them something to work towards, and that's what I try to do with Nate is give him goals and things to work towards that he can earn and that to help him, do really well. And he's been doing great. I'm really proud of him. I still don't feel sober, having to rely on chemical. I believe I have a deeper rooted issue that hasn't been addressed. And I really just think I'm not ready to be sober. Oh, I'm sorry, Antonio, but that's okay. If you don't want to be sober, then, but I mean, I feel sober. I feel in recovery. And I feel like I've changed everything in my life, everything. And so I think what happens with a lot of you guys is that you have been brainwashed by AA and NA. And they are teaching you that the only way to be in recovery is to be abstinent. And that's just not the truth. It's not the truth. There's levels to addiction and there's levels to recovery. And many people utilize medication in their everyday life to be healthy, to be sane. And so a lot of people depend on medications for their mental health, for physical health. And so I think that we put too much emphasis on abstinence, and that's not what recovery is about. Okay. Like not taking substances is just the tip of the iceberg. Okay. Everything else that goes along with it is what's so important. Stopping taking the substances is just the beginning. Everything else that you learn and grow is what's important, what makes recovery. But don't put so much stock in abstinence. Abstinence is not what it's all about. A lot of you guys sell yourself short because you are prescribed a medication and you don't look at it. Like, that's because you're brainwashed. That's because that's what you've been taught. Think about it. You have never been anywhere where they don't teach that, because that's what they have been teaching in treatment centers for hundreds of years. Okay. But now that we have a huge opioid epidemic and people are dying from fentanyl overdoses, do you see the importance of having things like medication so that way people can bridge that gap? So yeah, I ain't ashamed. I love being on Suboxone. I'll scream it from the rooftop. Suboxone saved my life. I've been sober on Suboxone for almost 9 years, and you should be proud of yourself as well. Abstinence doesn't equal recovery. I know a lot of people who are completely abstinent from all drugs and alcohol, and they are miserable fucking assholes. So anyway, I love you guys. Yeah, I know. I agree, Donna. I agree. 100% a cult. But don't sell yourself short. Recovery is not just abstinence. It's so much more than that. It's so much more than that. Also, ask yourself this. If you didn't tell anyone you were on Suboxone, would they know? How would they know? They wouldn't. So just remember that too. Just like people don't know if you're on mental health medications. You know, they used to tell people back in the day, there was a lot of old school AA sponsors that used to tell their sponsees that if they were on medications for their mental health, that they weren't sober and that they couldn't have a spiritual experience because it was blocking them from the sunlight of the spirit. Okay, that's the kind of shit we're dealing with. So please, evidence-based treatment is what you need to be basing your shit off of. Science, not some culty fucking program that teaches that you can pray your addiction away. Okay? Not, ooh, y'all are going to make me go on a tangent now. But anyway, the reason why I went live is to talk about my experience with becoming a mother, because Mother's Day is Sunday, and to share it with you guys. And you see, I shared with you guys the deep amount of shame and guilt I have because I wasn't able to document becoming a mother or having my son. And I ache, my heart hurts because of that, because being a mom is my greatest achievement. Having my son is one of the biggest things that's ever happened to me and most important thing in my whole entire life, and is raising him to be a good, outstanding young man and to treat others with love and respect and kindness. And so I just wish that I could have done better, you know, and I have to live with that. Nobody else has to. Okay. So no one can judge me. Nobody can say anything to me to hurt me because I already think about it myself. You know what I'm saying? It's the hardest thing to overcome the mistakes that I made, especially while I was carrying my son. You know, I wish that I could, when I tell you, if there was one wish, if a genie could come down out of the sky and grant me one wish, it would be that I could go back in time, and the day I found out I was pregnant, that I could get sober and stay sober from that point forward, 100%. So I love you guys. I can't go back in time. So that's where we're at. I just share my experience in hopes that it will help other women who are experiencing the same thing. And if you're not pregnant and you're in active addiction, you will hear my story and learn from it and get sober before you do get pregnant. So you won't have to go through what I went through, and your child won't have to be in harm's way like my baby was. My son is a fucking miracle. Okay. He's an angel. All right. He is a miracle of God, because I wasn't protecting him. So just, he is meant to be on this earth. He has a purpose and a calling on his life, and he doesn't even know it yet. And that's how much of a miracle he is. So Anyways, I love you. I love being a mom, and I hope you guys have a great Saturday. I'm gonna get ready so I can go buy me a diamond ring. Right, Neil?
That's right.
All right. We love you guys. Have a great day. Bye.